Life still goes on. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining. People still jumping on the call, so we're going to grow slowly. Excited to have today's superstar, Ray Rodriguez, to share a little bit about his mindset, his story, his production, his goals and strategies, etc. I know Ray since I personally joined the Calabasas tribe, and he's been with the company 10, 11 years, and in real estate even longer since he started as a rookie junior, as a junior commercial guy. He's going to tell the story in a second. And this guy is just, you know, what I call the top 1%, right? The guys that are committed to the goal, purposeful. You can see when you're talking to Ray, you see his eyes, you see like the engine behind the eyes, like working all the time. Like, how can I, there's gotta be something, there's gotta be, what am I missing? Like, what's the next step? And he's consistently always, you know, reinventing himself and at the same time, still heavily focused on the target. So Ray, I hope it was a, you know, very kind of humble entrance introduction. Ray Rodriguez, how are you? Hold on. Let me just unmute yourself. Unmute you. Ask you mute.
There we go. We good?
Yeah, can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. That was a very humbling introduction. So I think it was perfectly stated. Thank you.
Yeah. So give us kind of, you know, in a nutshell, your story. How did you evolve into real estate, and where are you today?
Sure. So in 2002, I was in my senior year at USC, and I was getting ready to go into my second semester, and they had essentially like a recruiting day, and we had a gentleman come to speak at one of the groups that I was in. And you know, I came from a very kind of humble background, family in West Hills. Father was an electrician, electrical contractor, and my mother worked at Lytton Defense for a little while, but mostly she was a stay-at-home mom taking good care of us. And so my exposure to the professional world was fairly limited. I was also the first one in my family to go to university. So when I got there, I was essentially trying to absorb as much as I could, as fast as I could. And my antenna was up, and you know, I just so happened that a lot of the conversations that I heard in the fraternity house were my buddies talking about their fathers either investing in commercial real estate or in some sort of facet working in the commercial real estate business. So that kind of stayed with me over the course of the next couple of years. And then when I happened to go to that networking event, the speaker was speaking about commercial real estate. He was a USC alumni who owned a small boutique commercial real estate shop in downtown LA. So as soon as he was done speaking, I had to get to class, and I just forced my way to the front, and I go, "Hey, how do I get an internship as soon as possible?" Because my dad had actually recently told me too, like, "Son, I love you, and I wish I could have helped you more, but I helped you as much as I could. And once you graduate, you got to figure it out." So, you know, that was in the back of my head this whole time too. And the guy was really cool, friendly guy. And he just said, "Look, read Think and Grow Rich, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when you're done reading those 2 books, call me." And I don't think I've ever read a book before in my life from front to back. But I read those 2 books from front to back within like 2 weeks. And I called him, and I ended up getting an interview, which led to an internship. It was essentially a partially paid internship my second semester, where I got 25% of any business I generated. And by the time I graduated, I had $75,000 in commissions and escrow. So I transitioned from graduating into working as a full-time agent at the company with commissions lined up already, which was amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, for like a 22-year-old guy, you know, $75K, I thought I was like the man. But you know, it was looking back, I mean, that was really I was very fortunate.
Um, Thank you for sharing. And once again, the books that Ray mentioned was Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't read those, that must have. I love the fact that you're a few things I picked, and I know for quite some time. So we had many conversation in the past, but a few things I picked right now when you're speaking was about motivation, right? And what I kind of picked between the lines is, first of all, that your background, right, your humble background, gave you, and I'm going to frame it as limited support, as you mentioned, right? It gave you this like massive incentive and drive to become who you are.
Yeah, I think that, I grew, it wasn't like I grew up in a terrible neighborhood. I grew up in West Hills, but my family had gone through some financial issues on and off at that point, and so I kind of, I saw the full spectrum of how people lived, because I went to Catholic school, and some people's homes were in gated communities and big, and some were not, and some were like my house, which were kind of beat up at the time. And so when you're growing up and you're seeing that, and you have friends coming over, you kind of like, as you get a little bit older, you start to notice these things. You're like, okay, how do they do it at their house? Okay, how do they do it at their house? Like, what do their mom and dad talk about versus, their mom and dad? And you just, you're a sponge, and you start absorbing it, and then you look for little gems to put to work for yourself.
Yeah, that's mindset right there. So fast forward, you got into business, and you're how did you evolve from a solo player, and if whoever is in the call today, we have over 30 people right now so far. The commercial residential, you have to figure out your niche at one point anyway, and then just keep that consistency. So share a bit about that, Ray. You're big on mindset. You always focusing on that and feeding yourself and the mind. You looking ways to reinvent and strengthen yourself. And right now you have coach, etc. Share about that, your story, your journey from this single player in a back of an office, right, to who Ray is today.
Sure. Well, I think a big part of it is working through your own personal barriers and fears. And so that's where a lot of the good books or good audio books or whatever it is that you need to feed your mind, so that you can reprogram the way you're thinking. We're all limited by our own beliefs, or we're all empowered by our own beliefs. So what we choose to allow into our mind and process as a valid thought versus what we choose not to is extremely important to our success in the actions that we're going to take, because there's ideas and thoughts that will pass through that will kind of freeze you and scare you. And then there's ideas and thoughts that will pass through that will actually encourage you and give you the push to take action. So I think being ultra aware of your some people, I've heard it called your garden, keeping your garden. If you think of your brain as your garden, your mind and your thoughts, how do you maintain it so that you're only growing like great vegetables and fruits, and you're not allowing any weeds in there, because we all have them. So I think that was really key for me in the beginning. Some people got to work on that more than others. So, sometimes that speaks to people, sometimes it doesn't. That's part of it. I would say for me, that was step one. Step two is really taking extreme ownership of whatever little you can do when you're first starting off. And for me, all I could do was cold call. That was the only value I had, because I didn't know anything about anything in real estate. And so my job was to cold call and generate opportunities. So what I did was, and back then it was easier to block out distractions. Nowadays, we've got all these different companies after our money, after our business. It could get confusing, where to spend your time and money. But a few things haven't changed, and they're very simple. And that's getting in front of people and meeting them and getting them on the phone and talking to them. So I knew if I had a couple lines I could share that my senior taught me at the time, and I did it enough times that it was going to work, at least according to him, because apparently that was how he built his business. So I went ahead and I trusted that, and I did it. And I called a lot. I had to make 100 calls a day. Wow. And that was before dialers. We were still using a fax machine. and I didn't even have a computer. I had a book. It was called the Apartment Directory, and a notepad. And that's how I started.
Yeah. And yeah, it's I mean, mindset is such a big thing, and you know, keep the consistency. And, you know, when you started, you didn't really have you know, the internet capacity as we have it today, right? So you had to figure things out as you go as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, we had internet, but it definitely wasn't like it was today. The resources that we have today, we definitely, like, I definitely learned fast about my market territory, because I was pretty sheltered, and the market that the senior gave me was probably the market he wanted to work the least, which was fine, because I would take anything. And so I was in Panorama City, North Hills, on the daily, and this was like early 2000s, so it was still kind of gnarly out there. But you know, I would say my way of learning was being thrown into the fire. There's two schools of thought. There's being thrown in the fire like I was, and earning what you learn, and that's what he would tell me. I would have to earn his time by creating opportunities, and if I had an opportunity, then that allowed for me to meet with him once a week, you know, for 45 minutes, go through the opportunities. I had to be extremely efficient, because if I came ill prepared, he'd be like, okay, we don't get to talk about that till next week. And in that time, that could mean somebody else getting that deal. So I learned very quickly to that my value was creating opportunity. And then I learned very quickly that wasn't just enough. I also had to be very prepared and know that opportunity inside out. So it wasn't like that he expected me to know everything, but he expected me to be resourceful, to create opportunities, and to use common sense, to go out there, have driven the property already, walked the building, taken pictures, you know, all the stuff that we need to do to know what we're talking about. You know, nowadays, like, we just hop on Google Maps and just take a street walk, or we do a satellite view. But back then, I was like walking with the homeboys in North Hills, like trying to get some pictures, and them looking at me like they wanted to kill me. But, you know, that was all part of the fun of getting in.
Yeah. I can imagine you, you know, the six something, you know, in the streets with a nice suit, taking pictures with a little camera.
Back then I wore suits all the time, because that was just required. But that was the right place to be wearing a suit and have a camera.
Dress to impress.
Yeah.
So another thing that I kind of, you know, picked from what you just mentioned right now, which I truly believe in, and I call it, I tag it as values and standards, right? You're much driven from, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're much driven by, not by fear of loss, right? But like, not to be missing an opportunity, like you're always on the lookout.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting, because money has nothing to do with fear. Security sometimes could have something to do with fear.
Right.
But when you allow fear into your life, you're essentially allowing darkness into your life. Some people could go so far to call it evil, even if you're not necessarily having, you know, thoughts that would hurt others. You're having thoughts that would hurt yourself, because you're holding yourself back. Yes. So when you operate from a place of fear, you're literally making a choice to disempower yourself. When you operate from a place of action, well thought out actions, strategy, and then implying it and seeing if it works, the worst case scenario, you walk away knowing way more than you did, sitting around wondering if you should do it, being scared to invest, some time, being scared to invest some money. And it took me a long time, honestly, to figure that out. I think probably longer than most people. But once you do, it's pretty incredible, because your life becomes about taking actions and then looking at the results, adjusting your scope, call it a little bit, and then taking action again. I think reflection is key on what your actions are and how you're spending your time. So make sure to reflect, because if you do take the time to reflect, then you'll actually improve every time, versus maybe getting into that trap, because you also want to fall in that trap if it's doing the same thing over and over. That doesn't work, and fooling yourself in the process. It's really easy to lie to yourself. It's really easy to fool yourself by doing some stuff just to do it. And it's like kind of the stuff that is really not high value tasks, but it makes you feel good because you're doing something, but you're really operating from fear because you're hiding from rejection, or you're hiding from an action that would take significant amount of time, a significant investment, whatever you want to call it. So don't fool yourself.
Yeah, super powerful. When did you have that breakthrough or breakthroughs? If you look back and you think, oh, okay, I can point out those crossroads that really I made this significant jump to where I'm at today.
Sure. I think part of it was maturity. Initially, like in also kind of always readjusting your goals. I made the mistake of not doing that early on in my career. And so I got satisfied a couple times. And then that caused certain, like, I guess we would call them barriers or a ceiling. And then I would be stuck there for a minute. So I think the key, first off, was like, being a 21-year-old guy and maturing was a huge part of that. And then after that, learning to always readjust goals upward, because it is something to do that as far as what that impact is. If you don't do that, what happens is you actually let yourself down, because you'll set a goal, you'll work to get there, and then you'll get there. And my problem was I'd get there and then I'd celebrate for too long. And then it kills momentum, and it's almost kind of like a letdown after you're done, because then you come back and you're like, it's almost literally like starting from scratch. So what you want to do is you want to, like, imagine a ladder, and your goals, like, imagine cloud cover, and you're climbing the ladder, and you can't see how high the ladder goes yet because there's clouds there, because you can only see so far, because your experience is only so much and your results are only so much at any given point. But once you set that goal and you start climbing, suddenly you start getting close to the clouds when you hit your goal. And if you don't start stacking another goal beyond that, you're going to stay in the clouds, and you're not going to get to see how high your own ladder is going to go. Whereas as you start approaching your goal, if you're measuring it and you're reflecting like you should be, that's the best time to set a new goal, because you're excited, you're focused, you have momentum, you kind of know what's working now, and you can stack a couple other goals now, so that you not only hit your original goal, but then you literally blow past it, and you're already pushing to the next, and suddenly the clouds open up and you start to see how high your ladder can actually go.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And guys, if you are in that process of evolving, growing the business, if you're reading books, this is just gold nuggets right there. And it is wisdom. Like you can't just make it up. And thank you for sharing that, because what I'm hearing you saying is that growth is, or pursuit for success, if you may, is pretty much always happening. Like you can't just stop. And it's like in deals, but we teach our agents, right? Like, hey, always look 90 days ahead, right? It's like when you start to cultivate business or relationship, you're going to be paid 90 days ahead, statistically, what have you. So you always have to be on the lookout. You always has to stay like in that state of mind to always understand where to grow and how to change.
Yes, definitely. And I think a mastermind is great. You know, I think KW provides a lot of those great mastermind groups, and deciding where you fit in or where you belong or what works for you is key. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to be a part of every club. Don't try to be a part of every group. Like, a huge part of your business is prioritizing. Same thing in life, same thing in anything that you want to be successful at. So kind of prioritize for yourself, like know what your skill set is, be honest with yourself, find out like where you thrive, and then build a team around that, or build support around that. And then the other thing that's just been like so glaring in my life the last couple of years is that you really do get to choose your response to everything.
Right.
And you also, outside of your family, you get to choose every single person who's in your life. It's not just who you work with. It's not just who your clients are. It's not just what company you work at. It's literally, you get to choose every person in your life outside of your family. So are the people outside of your family, because I love my family to death, but I got, like, we have our characters, and I love them, and I just got to do what I got to do to be who I am in my family. But outside of that, I've become so critical about like who's in my life,
right?
Because it will either add to your fire and fuel you, or it could hurt you. So you really got to look at your life as, because no matter what, you're going to face stuff. You're going to go through stuff. You're going to go through challenges. So you might as well have a great group of people that you've surrounded yourself with that don't contribute to your problems. They don't contribute to the stuff you're already going to go through. And you don't want to like turn into a savior. Like, we all want to be good people and give back and contribute, but you also don't want to fall into this trap of like being a savior for everybody. Like, everybody, like, the world functions best when everybody takes extreme ownership for their own life, for what they need to do. This one client told me once, we were having this cool conversation, just opening up to each other. And he said something like, hey, like, when I wake up in the morning and I go through my morning meditation or my morning routine, whatever you call it, my morning prayer, he goes, one of the things I tell myself, it just takes a second, is I'm not going to let anybody throw their monkey on my back. Like, I'm going to dodge the monkey. I'm going to, run from the monkey. And what he meant by that is that you'll literally go through a day, and if you start to be aware of it, you'll see people who are either lost or need help or unsure. And we all got our monkey on our back, right? Like, we all got the stuff. We got our stuff, our responsibilities, our thing, issues, sick parents, struggles, you name it. These other people will literally throughout the day try to like throw their monkey on your back because they don't want to face it. Like, they don't want to just take ownership of their stuff. So just be aware of that too, because that could really be a momentum killer for you.
Yeah, that's huge. And same thing, you have to be brave, right? Especially if you have things that tying you down or pulling you back or what have you. You have to be brave to really believe in your story, your goal, and your also understand your strength.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this was a hard thing for me because I didn't want to be selfish, right? I didn't want to be that guy that like let people down. But what I realized is that, just like going back to who you choose that's in your life outside of your family, the good ones, the ones that are actually going to be a good impact in your life, that potentially could earn that place as one of the people you choose to actually engage and spend time with, they will figure their shit out. And that is what's so important, is that everybody's taking responsibility. If you build a life where the majority of the people that are involved in your life are people that want to be the best they can be, that are trying to do the best they can, and are taking responsibility, and the interactions become more discussions on how do we do this? Like, how do we make it happen? What actions can we take?
Exactly.
Not like, oh my God, like, here's what I'm going through, blah, blah, blah. they've already been there. Like we all know that story. Now it's like, I want to hear that part. I want to hear, like, what are you going to do? Like, what are your ideas? What can you maybe teach me? And what can I teach you about going in the right direction? Let's talk about going in the right direction. Let's not talk about staying in the wrong place. So suddenly, if you conduct yourself that way, these people are going to be like, wow, like their ship is sailing and I like the direction it's going and I want to be on that ship. How do I get on that ship? And yeah, some people are going to get left behind, but that's their choice.
Yeah. And well said, Ray. And, you know, you're clearly a leader, you know, of your own, you know, destiny, your surrounding, right? Family, industry. And I did share right now in the chat as well, Ray's website, Lucrum. So it's a good segue to, you know, you say, like, you know, you get to choose, right? It's a matter of choice. Tell us a bit more about right now about your group and you know, maybe in a nutshell, like last year challenges and how you turned those challenges, you know, pandemic, etc., into opportunities. Because so far for the year, you guys on fire. So
thank you. Yeah. So last year was, we all know last year was tough. For commercial especially, we got hit pretty hard because the pandemic caused massive issues for landlords relating to rent collections. And a lot of investors, you know, people go into worst case scenario. They go into what we talked about, like they step out of action and into fear and get frozen. And a lot of that is also just, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you do have to take a step back and analyze the damage and decide what you need to do. So last year was, I think, my worst year since like my third year in the business, maybe. And so the logic was, okay, this sucks. You know, thank God we prepared for stuff like this. Let's decide what we're going to do, because right now nobody's doing anything. Like, at least everybody we were calling, they just wouldn't do anything. So it was time to revamp. It was time to revamp the website. It was time to revamp our marketing. It really needed it. And I'd kind of like neglected that for a really long time. So that was what I decided to do. Like I hired an assistant. I had an assistant prior. I hired a new assistant, and you know, you guys have heard of them already. Many's had them. Scott Cato with Virtue Leverage. They were referred to me by Jossie, and it's been amazing. You have to have your stuff together, like know what you should be doing with your time versus what you shouldn't be doing, and clear instructions for that assistant to then like thrive in their job and to help you. But yeah, so a couple things. Like last year was nuts. My dad died. My mom got sick. Like the world, like the world around me was just kind of in turmoil. But when you decide what you're going to do, even when that's happening, and you're clear and you get momentum. So what happened was, it was super uplifting for the team, because we all knew we needed, you know, a new website. We all knew we needed our stuff updated. And the guys got reinvigorated too, because they're like, hey, like, I want to get back on the phone, and I want to like show to our clients what we're offering now, the services we have, who we are, share their bio. So I invested heavily in their bios and their marketing as well, not just my own. So we took action, and it's really amazing. I can't sit here and tell you that this year is so much better because we did that. Well, partially what I'm trying to say is, I can't tell you that the marketing efforts we're making have gotten somebody to pick up the phone and say, hey, Ray Rodriguez, I want to list with you, like, come meet me. That's not what happened. What happened is that because we now had something to share again that we thought was of value, and we stayed on the phone, the prospects that maybe we wouldn't otherwise convert, you can see it. Our LinkedIn, and we're tracking everything through Google Analytics. So our LinkedIn shoot up, our website shot up, our listings page shot up, everything just started shooting through the roof. But it was a direct result from our effort on the phone. Okay. driving them there, and then them checking us out and saying, oh, you know what? I want to work with you. So the second call, the rapport building was like done. It's shocking to see the difference. It's called your digital footprint. It's shocking to see the difference between the first call to the second call now. And we've talked about it in our team meetings, and it's night and day. Like the next time we have that call, it's like the guy knows us already, or feels comfortable, or the lady knows us already and feels comfortable with us. And we're going to take it a whole nother level, because soon we're starting our postcard campaign, and we're literally going to be in every home of every apartment owner twice a month. So not only are they going to get the phone calls, which was all we had before, and we were having just under $1 million years with just cold calling. But not only going to get the phone calls, not only are they going to get the digital marketing, not only are they going to get the newsletter once a month, not only are they going to get the deal blasts whenever we have them, listings, solds, off-market deals, they're going to get a postcard too. So everybody's different. And it's just the fact that those postcards are probably going to get trashed. Maybe one's going to get put in a file, but we're going to be in their face, in their house consistently. Because if you think about it this way, how often, does one person buy or sell a house? How often does one person buy or sell a building? It's rare to have a client. There's a few of them that are constantly in the business of buying and selling. Thank God we have a few of those. But if we built our whole business off that, our business wouldn't be as good as it is. So you have to constantly be in their face, because when they do need you, or it's not, they don't even know they need you yet. When they need somebody to sell something, okay? It could be real estate, could be whatever. They're going to be like, oh, Lucrum, oh, Ray Rodriguez, like Scotty Weinstein, Matt Friedman, I've been getting their stuff. Like, let me call them. Now, that might not even mean you get the deal, but guess what? You're in the game now. You're going to get the interview. You're going to get the meeting, and then it's up to you to close. But if you're not reaching them through multiple ways, and this is what I found out the hard way, literally just learned this 2 years ago, that you're going to get, you're like going into a war with a handgun against other teams and people that are going in with grenade launchers, machine guns, you name it, every freaking high-tech weapon, because they're attacking them from all angles, and you got your one approach. So that's what we did last year. It's worked out. This year we have already in escrow, we have 23 million in escrow currently, and then we have several million more in listings right now. God willing, it keeps going well. We got one of those deals in escrow is a little shaky right now, so hopefully we'll keep it together. But outside of that, it's looking really good.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Ray. Good information. It's always that's pretty much the art of marketing, right? To be in top of mind, to be in front of the consumer. And in commercial, it's a bit more trickier because commercial not do things usually traditionally, let's say like residential do, like with the postcards, etc. So once again, you ever evolving and always reinventing and trying to find different ways to be one step ahead, and then it pays off. So
yeah, and like I said, it's not. I don't want to fool anybody. It's not like we're getting calls from this marketing like, oh my God, you have the greatest marketing. I want to sell or I want to buy. We're everywhere, like digitally now, and that wasn't before. And now we're in their inbox, we're on their phone, and we're in their mail. And so when we do call them, now it's like, remember, we're still calling them, we're still hitting the phone.
Sure.
They're like, oh yeah, like you guys are busy. Like, so what's going on in the market? Like, you're an authority already. Like, you're already an authority in their mind. They already feel like they know you. You've been in their living room. You've been in their kitchen, granted just on paper so far, but you've been there. So that's like one step ahead than anyone else. So look at your market territory as like a war zone. You've got all these people attacking from different angles. Decide how you're going to attack to start. Not all of us could attack the way my team's attacking now. It took me this long to get there. Maybe I could have done it sooner if I I don't know, got better help sooner, or better coaches sooner, or just own the fact that I needed help instead of trying to figure everything out on my own. Choose how you're going to attack. Start with that and be committed and work hard. And then as your ROI goes up, then, you can start placing money, and now you could buy a machine gun and attack this way. You could buy a rocket launcher and attack that way. You buy a helicopter and attack from the top. And suddenly, like, you're an army, right? That's what you're after.
Yeah.
Don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning, though. Don't beat yourself up if you don't have the budget or if you don't have the manpower. Pick one, and one that you're going to enjoy, and do it well.
On point, and thank you for adding that last line, because a lot of people, when they start, etc., or like they're not really sure how to start with even with your social presence, right? With the online presence, social presence, there's no cost in most cases, and then you can slowly kind of boost it up and take it to the levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you guys a massive tip on that. I shared it with you, many. The guy's name is Donald Miller. Business Made Simple, Marketing Made Simple. And it's awesome. Like, if you don't know, like, what your LinkedIn should say, you don't know what your website should say, you don't want to look at like everybody else, because everybody else is always doing the same thing. Check that out. Like, the messaging on there is so amazingly simple, but it's so obvious in your face. And a lot of us are marketing the wrong way, where our messaging is completely not. We're talking about ourselves. We're talking about our way of doing business. We're talking about our values. Nobody cares. Like, you're not speaking to the consumer. So he's going to teach you how to speak to this consumer. His name's Donald Miller. Marketing Made Simple, Business Made Simple. He's going to teach you to stop talking about yourself and start talking about positioning yourself in the client's story. It's incredible, super interesting. I think you guys are going to love it.
Yeah, Ray, can't thank you enough, man, for your time and just showing up and share your all this good stuff, the mindset, the systems, the techniques. We can keep on going. We a bit over time, but it's well worth it. And by the way, I do miss the partying with Ray Rodriguez. So
oh man, yeah.
so pick up soon. So.
Like, I don't know, that guy is not the same guy. I don't know if I'm that guy anymore, but I'm still down to have a great tequila from here and there.
Happy hour, yeah, happy hours, right?
Yeah.
Ray Rodriguez, Lucrum. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for the insight, and thanks everybody for showing up and spend some time with us.
Of course, thank you. Appreciate it, Manny. Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Good job. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.